Alright, how's that? Now we can actually talk. Hey everybody. Happy Sunday, cover in here. Uh, oh, so I told you my audio got messed up and my broadcast channel was not set to my chat channel. It was set to the default channel, which I don't know what that leads to, but it's not what we needed. So it's not lower lines if we don't have technical difficulties. So there's our one for today. Just the hope. Yes. Right. Hey Rhapsodic, how are you? Yumi and Neela, you guys were telling us how you guys were this week. Anything up? Are you up to anything new? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. I need to watch it. But yeah, I heard it's incredible. What is it? 25 minutes of actual in-game footage. Ugh, I want it. I'm stupidly excited for that game. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, I will after the stream. Nice. It's a good time of year for that actually, before it gets really hot. Uh-oh. Hang on. Let me check. All right. I can hear myself. You can speak. Go ahead. And the background died. Yep, it's not in lower lines if something isn't broken. The Edge is calling tonight. It's so edgy. Don't cut yourself. No, they can't hear you yet. Let me see here. All right, go ahead and say something.
Something. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, go ahead.
I will not be silenced!
Silence you. Okay, so, for the third time. How have you guys been this week?
You want to talk about that state of play, Ayumi?
Yeah, it was awesome!
Haven't watched it yet. I'll have to at some point.
Who was excited about that Final Fantasy 16 state of play? This guy.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I haven't seen it yet. I am looking forward to watching it right after this stream. Hey, the background's back.
Hey. As for me, I've been working outside. We've had really good weather this last week, and we're putting in a garden, so it's been a lot of work, but a lot of good work.
That's good.
So, yes.
Growing your tomatoes and fruits.
Indeed. And catnip for the cats.
Yeah,
so
I gotta warn you about the catnip, though. If you let it grow, it will choke your plants to death.
So, I heard the Edge is calling tonight.
That's true.
At least according to AC.
It is calling, yes. Don't cut yourself on that edge.
So, what did everyone think of Sephiroth, at least when it was initially released? Oh, that was almost 8 years ago. 8 or 7 years ago.
It was a pain in the
I was
ass.
like, man, the music in this is banging.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing that fight for the music alone.
The ironic thing is they nearly got in trouble for making it sound the same as another song from mediocre to terrible industrial rock group called Power Man 5000.
You shut your mouth. When Worlds Collide was an amazing song.
That was an amazing song, but it is mediocre.
It is mediocre.
But mediocre.
It's an amazingly mediocre song.
It's catchy, and you know what? Sometimes that's enough.
It's butt rock. You
Yeah.
drive in your car, you listen to the radio, it comes on, it's okay for like the first maybe 30 seconds, and then you switch stations.
No, there
But
were
you
no
don't
other
when you're listening to
stations.
Fiend, because Fiend is great. There's stylistic similarities, but it doesn't sound anything like the song. They're just being like, "Oh, but that guy can make music. That's our sign." I don't know. I think it's just a testament to how flexible a composer Soken and San is.
So apparently the story behind it was that Yoshi P wanted a kind of industrial rock type song. And you know how music is. They has so many subgenres and genres and little subgenres inside of those little subgenres. And so when Soken made it, he wasn't aware of When Worlds Collide. That was not on his mind. Mm-hmm. So when he made it, he made it to fit that genre, and it just happened to sound similar to that of their song. So they got up in arms about it. But if you think about it and hear the industrial rock genre, a lot of songs in there, they all sound the same.
I think it's just
a genre.
Yeah, I think it's just a testament to how generic the song was.
I hate to say it, but you are correct.
Yeah. Not that it's a bad song. I enjoy it. I still enjoy it. I still enjoy Fiend. I just think it's hilarious that it was just such a generic sound that Soken almost directly nailed it on the head.
I mean, it literally sounded like an early Nine Inch Nails song.
I thought you were going to say early 90s rock song, and I was like, late 90s.
No, I wouldn't go there.
I'm trying to figure out which piece you're talking about now. The Power Man 5001 or the or Fiend.
Yes.
Both.
Fair.
So let's go back to the Sephiroth again. So obviously he's a reference to the Final Fantasy VI icon from the Warring Triad.
Esper.
Esper, icon, primal, summon, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, Rhapsodic says Sephiroth's cool, but I want to see Mirror and see how he and his song and the things he says in the fight reflect Mirror and society. I too want to see how civilization develops on a continent made of glass.
So
those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
Maybe.
Right.
I just know they pretty much glassed half the continent, so.
So there's theories out there that Zervan's arena is what Mericidia possibly looks like today.
I would say no, but yeah, go ahead.
But then again, all we can do right now is theorize. But going back to Sephiroth, he is supposedly a tree. Or at least that's what he thinks himself as.
Yes.
Something like that.
So I have the lore book entry here for Sephiroth. It's just a paragraph.
Go ahead.
But it says Sephiroth was summoned by a race of tree-like beings native to the continent of Mericidia. Believed to be the world's first tree ascended to divinity, he is said to command the wellspring of life. Allegan records substantiate this claim, attributing the icon with the ability to induce spontaneous growth in living organisms through the manipulation of ambient etheric energy. Sephiroth often enlarged his own form to colossal size to wreak devastation upon his enemies, earning him the title of the Fiend from the battered armies of Alag.
AC Gears and Arms says something interesting here. It says, I have a theory that his worshippers in Mericidia, the tree people, are the 14th version of the Guado from 10. I had never thought about that. That would be interesting, honestly.
That's actually a really good reference point. So diving into the song, let's go with the first stanza here.
It's calling tonight. The Edge.
No, it's not. There's what is it like when you pull back the curtain and realize every wrong is right? Your world is rusted like a dirty razor. The Edge is calling tonight.
See? The Edge is calling tonight.
My God.
It didn't come yet. There's few lyrics before that.
Oh, picky.
Let's see, in the first lyric, what is it like when you pull back the curtain and realize every wrong is right?
Given when this came out, I think about this a lot in this context of the Dragon Song War and the people of Ishgard thinking, well, they were in the right, they were wronged by the dragons, and they find out actually it was our ancestors that wronged them, and we had it backwards all along.
See, and I liken this to the way that the primals see their worshippers. What is it like when you look back at what you know and realize every wrong that you think is now a right? In other words, what is it like if you invert your view of society and then turn towards worshiping something else?
True. I also find the pull back the curtain analogy interesting, as in, like, is it a theater thing or is it like a curtain hiding something?
Well, it's like the wool over the sheep's eyes, right?
That's definitely one way to interpret it. I think it could be taken in more than one way, and I'm not sure if like one is specifically intended or if it's just wide open.
Your world is rusted like a dirty razor.
I would say that would be a reflection of the Mericidian people at the time. So they have their society, their world under attack by Alag, and seeing themselves as sharp, maybe even cutting edge, and now they feel useless, kind of like they're being cut apart, not cleanly, but very very painfully and slowly.
I look at
Yeah.
it like the world is rusted like a dirty razor. So when things rust, they become old and decrepit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oxidation.
So I think it was more like the stagnation of the present world where Alec was taking over and making everything a kind of one unified thing.
We do get some indication in other textual stuff that Aleg was, even as it was expanding, the interior was kind of like there was this corruption setting in, and
Exactly.
they eventually got
Mm-hmm.
very complacent and such.
Oh, they
It's
absolutely did.
it's what Emmett Silk basically was masterminding. Like it was he oversaw their expansion and that yet at the core they were rotting.
Which is what Amon was trying to fight against.
Yep.
So Yumi, tell me, what is it like when you pull back the shower curtain?
There's a lot of steam.
Do you have
Amazing.
any rusty razors?
No, because
Dirty
I like to
razors?
take. I take hot showers because I like to practice burning in hell.
Nice.
A worthy pursuit. Anyway, moving on.
The edge is calling tonight. The edge is calling tonight. The sun is setting, darkness taking over, a date with chaos, and you're dressed to the nines. There's 3 times he said the edge is calling tonight. The edge is calling tonight.
Yeah, it keeps coming back. After looking at this song after Shadowbringers, specifically after 5.3 and Elidivus' song To the Edge and all the To the Edge in the lyrics, I'm just like, is this intentional? Is this coincidence? I don't know how to interpret this.
The way I see it is that whenever you think of someone being pushed too far, you say that they're going to be pushed over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what they mean by when the edge is calling. They're being pushed to the edge, and now it's you either get pushed over or you stay at the edge and stay in your complacency.
I do see it as calling, as in you have a visitor at the door that's come to call, not the edge is like, hey yo, come over here. It's like knock knock. Guess who's here, motherfuckers? Sorry.
That's another way too.
That's just the way I interpret it. It's it has a lot of that's the fun and yet
And
infuriating
it
thing about lyric.
actually goes into the next lyric pretty well. The sun is setting, darkness taking over, a date with chaos, and you're dressed to the nines.
Yeah, the date with chaos immediately puts me in mind of Ascians, of course, because they're like the agents of chaos, especially back in Heavensward when we didn't know that much about them when this would have been first released and written and all that. Don't know if that's intended to refer to them, but that's the way I tend to lean.
Right.
I could definitely see that. I see it more, not literally, but more as when you dress the nines, you put a lot of effort into this, and this is probably something that their entire society put effort into. And, they're, as a society, figuratively dressed to the nines with Sephiroth. And then their date with Chaos is to unleash him against the Allagan army.
The sun is setting, darkness taking over. Obviously, a reference to how they were. The daytime is how they were at their pinnacle, their peak, and now darkness coming to take over them, the Allagans.
Given that these Mericidians were trees of a sort, sentient trees, the sun would have to be a very important thing to them because that's how they would get their. I assume they photosynthesize and don't just eat people. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that would be my assumption anyway. So the sun setting would be like, oh, I buy food for now.
Right. Salt of the earth, salting your own fields. road to destruction that is true and tried.
Yeah, this reminds me of Total War. Salt of the Earth usually refers to the common people. So this was definitely something that went from the top of their society to the very bottom, basically saying if Alag is going to take our lands, we are going to make them as useless as possible, drain them of ether, put everything into summoning this primal, and fight.
I think there's also I like to take it in a metaphorical way too, because once you summon the primal, you become tempered and you're basically screwing yourself over, you just don't know it. So I see it in that way. And the road to destruction can also be, the summoning itself. But yes, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really got both sides to it.
No, they tend to do very much the double entendre thing, so it very likely
Yes.
could be both things.
So, do you think that it is another way of saying you reap what you sow?
In a way, yeah. It's not I don't know if they're saying that exactly, but that is kind of how it tumbles down. You summon a primal, now you get to have primal problems.
Because the second one is road to destruction that is true and tried. Basically, it's been done before, and look at what happened in the aftermath throughout history.
As I recall, the Alligans were pressing the Mericidians and other people to summon ever grander and greater versions of their gods. And then when they got the really powerful ones, that's when they locked them up and used them as power sources. So I see some of that in the True and Triad as well. Like we know how to summon, we know how to get them even stronger. Just
Well, and
keep doing
Ascians
it, and then
throughout
suddenly
history
they
have done
lock it
that
away, and
too.
we're like, oh shit.
Ascians throughout history have taught
Yes.
mortals the secrets of summoning too, so it's a continuous cycle. So yes, road to destruction that is true and tried, a continuous cycle of summoning and the downfall of civilization, the rise, the
The
summoning, the
calamities
downfall.
themselves.
You walk the path laid before you, the call of reason you refuse to abide. So again, I think this is another Ascian thing where you walk the path laid before you. They lay out the path that you take, the call of reason you refuse to abide.
Yeah, I
This
agree.
line really feels like it's more about the ancients, the Asians, to me. Which could be correct, could be nothing. I just remember, I believe it was in the conversation at the end of, oh gosh, the the ruins we went to. Someone help me out with the name. The ruins we went to in the Amaroth that was not in the city proper, but outside of it, and were not touched by the Emmett Selk's recreation.
The Ondo cups.
Yeah, no, not the Ondo Cups. All the way even further away, there was a
Yeah.
dungeon. But right
Ah,
afterwards, there was this scene, and we saw Venat for the first time. And someone was like, I was trying to warn
oh,
the convocation about this, but the stubborn force.
Anamnesis.
Anamnesis Annider.
Yes. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Thank you. That's so annoying. But yeah, one of the ancients actually had said that they went to the convocation with their concerns, but they didn't listen.
This is an interesting question by AC Gears and Arms. A bit off tangent, but question for later. The idea of summoning their gods over time as stronger versions. I often wonder how Ifrita became Ifrit to the Amalja.
I had a thought and I lost it.
I hate when that happens.
It could be just a cultural thing where uh, one god is considered different name to another.
It
I
could
forget
also, yeah.
was Ifrita the same as Ifrit? Was there any difference other than the name?
In 14 itself, we don't know anything about Afrida other than that it's a concept created by La Habre, I believe. Um,
See,
One of the
that's
masterworks.
see that
So
so
we have no
that's
idea.
yeah, so that's kind of enforces my opinion here that at least in different parts of the world or in different cultures, the summons are called different things upon like first interaction, kind of like Christianity and Catholicism and other cultures and religions call one god one thing, and then another one calls them another.
Mm. And it's also possible that, say, when the Amalja first summoned Ifrita, and they may have been very patriarchal society or something, and they were like, "Well, obviously our god is a boy god, not a girl god, or whatever," you know.
That's another thing too. Yeah,
Who knows? You know, it's shaped by the summoners. They may not even have intended to change it.
and that happens in other cultures too. They either add a syllable or a letter onto the end of the name, and it changes the
Yeah.
gender.
Yeah, the sound at the end of a name is very common, but not always to indicate feminine. Now we do have some indication because there was some other game which Ifrita was actually another Final Fantasy game which there was an Ifrita, which was like a feminine fire creature person. But I don't know much about that. I just was shown it by other people.
Necessity is an inventive mother, promising sanctum that she cannot provide.
The
This
she is
is
capitalized, isn't
yeah,
it?
this is something. This is an interesting line because they always say necessity is the mother of invention, and we always see a lot of rapid progress happen during wars in particular. And I think this is kind of an allusion to that, where the techniques of summoning rapidly progressed, not because they developed them, but because the Ascians showed them how to do it. Um, and because that they were made so desperate by war and they needed to do this, they kind of put their reason aside and let their desperation take over and say, okay, we're gonna go forward with this. We're gonna put everything into this basket, and if it doesn't work, then we're all dead anyway.
The second line, promising sanctum that she cannot provide. There in the lyrics, in the actual lyrics posted by the devs, the S and she is capitalized. So this is a reference to Heidelin.
Heidelin.
But yeah, it is interesting that it sounds like there's something that it's unclear if she cannot provide the sanctum because they've summoned primals and become tempered, or if she's just not capable because she's harnessed or hampered or low on power or something.
Yeah, but this would be during the third astral era, so she was not nearly as weak as she was when we met her.
Mhm.
No. And there
Which
are
is
people who would still kind of believe in that. In her, would believe in her, worshiping the crystal and everything, and would believe that sanctum would be a thing sought
available,
after.
yeah.
But at least in the way this is talked about or said, promising sanctum that she cannot provide. They weren't that you weren't able to seek the sanctum that you think you could by worshiping her.
I tend to read these lines as a pair. Necessity is an inventive mother, promising sanctum that she cannot survive, implying that Heidelin is this inventive necessity, is this mother. The next two lines will go into it a bit more too. It's like she's just I read this as her trying to like redress the everything that's happened after the sundering and being like, I gotta patch this up somehow.
Yeah, especially so she is the hand that rocks the cradle, the wind that breaks the bow and leaves you to die. Remember when we thought for the longest time up to Endwalker that she was the bad guy?
Indeed. This kind of fed into it too, my potential thoughts about that. These lyrics.
Thought?
The hand that rocks the cradle, it refers to, taking care of a baby. Well, compared to the ancients, humanity is all but infantilized. They have incredibly short lifespans and don't reach the same kind of maturity. So it's just interesting.
The wind that breaks the bow and leaves you to die. This is pretty much a Sephiroth is speaking to the lost and confused, like she is not going to provide you sanctum, and she is the one who's going to leave you to die.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Yeah. That fits to me.
That's fantastic. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Same.
She's
Yeah, I like
abandoned
that. It's
you.
just like Screw the mother crystal. She'll tell you nice things, but she makes you go do everything yourself. Come worship me, and I'll get huge and smash the army that's opposing us.
That's
It
right.
also feeds into the next one too, and there she leaves you to die.
Yeah, and the Asians brought cookies. Heidelin never gave us cookies.
That's why I said for the longest time we thought that she was the bad guy. There was a lot of lyrics and a lot of songs, a lot of dialogue spoken that suggested that kind of pointed towards her being this malevolent being.
In the
Yeah,
end, there
or at
really
least
wasn't a bad guy. It was just Hermes being an idiot.
yep. Oh, and I do want to back up. The obviously, the wind that breaks the bough and leaves you to die seems like a reference to the old nursery rhyme. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. You know,
Right.
but it's also like at some point I'll have to talk more about the Sephirat. So in Jewish Kabbalistic tradition, the Sephirat are a number of. Let me see if I can find my notes on it. I believe it's like pieces of godhood. A sephira is like a piece of God, and altogether they're called the sephirat, plural.
And I see the last two lines as it is indeed a reference to the nursery rhyme, but being a reference to the nursery rhyme, it's again Sephiroth just kind of viewing the world and its denizens as young, as infantile. She's the
Yeah.
one that rocks the cradle, so rocks your cradle, rocks the infantile worlds that you exist in. The wind that breaks the bough and leaves you to die. And there she leaves you to die.
Which I do think is still factual. Like she sundered mankind to shorten their lifespans. Oh, I don't know exactly what her intent was, but it had the effect of shortening their lifespans and making sure they never got so advanced that they could destroy themselves in that particular way again.
Yes. You'll find slumber when the world comes tumbling down. Sweet dreams, baby, sleep tight.
It's possible that's a reference to calamities, but I'm not sure.
It's pretty much you'll find slumber, you'll find peace when the world ends, when the world begins to crumble, when it begins to fall, when a world spanning calamity happens, you'll find your peace when you die. So sweet dreams, sleep tight.
It could even. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It could even be hinting at the ancients. Again, it's not clear exactly how much they say, oh, we don't write that much ahead, but they obviously have broad themes and general ideas planned. So it's just not clear how much they know. So this is very much speculative. But it's possible they already knew that there were going to be like an ancient precursor race that had this calamity. That's a pretty broad stroke and would be easy to play off of into lyrics like this. So,
I think that these last two parts, you'll find slumber when the world comes tumbling down, sweet dreams, baby, sleep tight. It is kind of like a conclusion to the previous set. When I said that there was when Sephiroth viewed the world as in an infantile state, when you say sweet dreams, sleep tight to an infant.
Yeah, you're like, don't worry about it. I'm watching over you.
Right. But in this case, it's more of a.
Yeah. It's very ironic.
Yeah, it's more of a taunting thing almost.
Yes. The way it's delivered, he's like, sweet dreams, baby, sleep tight. It's very, very, taunting. I agree. Oh, and there's another thing too, because later on there's a mention about a waking nightmare. So that seems to juxtapose very interestingly with this line.
Right. And it's he meant, yeah, like you said, it's a waking nightmare. So he believes, so it's basically Sephiroth saying that you're dreaming about a world peace. You're dreaming about living in harmony. You're so infantile. You're such babies, so young in this world, and you believe in your mother, Mother Heidelin, that she will be the one to provide you aid and succor, provide sanctum. She is not that. I am the one to do that.
Actually, and I hadn't thought about this till just now. I was like, wait, let me check this. Sanctum is usually defined as a sacred place, a shrine within a temple or church, or a private place from which most people are excluded. So it could be, obviously there's some implication of safety is how I'm reading this, but it could even have some like deific ideas. What with these primals contesting who's the real true god.
Retreat where lesser men lead. Flee from what you do not see.
Not gonna lie, these are the lines that made me think of the sound. Flee from what you do not see. Well, you can't see the sound, but you can hear it. And of course, retreat where lesser men lead could this gets very tinfoil hat, but could be Asm being like, "Yo, I'm not gonna go try and fight this stuff. I'm just gonna get turned. I need to get away from this." Tinfoil,
So retreat from where lesser men lead. It's usually, if we're going by tropes here, it's usually incompetent men, lesser men, incompetent men. So that could mean from anywhere between the commoners to soldiers to commanders, just leading blindly into places. Retreat from where they direct you.
True.
Flee from what you do not see. Whatever you see, turn away from it. Whatever you don't see, flee. Heed the dark within your being, turn away, disobey.
This is an interesting lines. It's kind of confusing, and it makes me think of untempering and how that's like dark. I'm trying to remember now.
I just had a thought.
Dark aspect. Yeah, go ahead.
So, heed the dark within your being, turn away, disobey. You remember the Dark Knight quests?
Oh, go on.
You know how Frey always says, listen to the dark, but inside of you, listen to your inner being, listen, fight for what you believe in and not what others believe in? I believe this whole set of lyrics is basically Sephiroth saying, it's retreat from where lesser men lead, flee from what you do not see. He's trying to goad you into following him. Heed the dark within your being. He basically believe what you know deep down. Turn away from what they believe, from what they're telling you. Disobey what their orders truly are.
Well, yeah, and since Heidelin is a primal of light, heed the dark within your being could be like specifically turn from Heidelin.
Turn from Heidelin because you need to flee from what you do not see. You cannot see Heidelin.
You know what else you don't see? Her call of hear, feel, think. You can hear it, but you can't see it. Interesting.
So again, it's Sephiroth from the previous set of lyrics to this set of lyrics. He's trying to goad you into following him and not her.
Which could be why he was trash talking her a little bit above, actually.
I'm the end and the beginning, the faith that feeds the unbelieving. Which just proves our point earlier. I'm the end. I will be the one that ends your suffering, and I'm the one who begins the path of peace, basically. The faith that feeds the unbelieving. So the unbelievers, the ones who didn't believe before, I will be that faith that guides them.
We should shun them.
Yes, that is the thing that we do with unbelievers.
And a tightening not to staunch the bleeding. Basically, I'm the band-aid to close the wound.
A tightening knot. I actually think of a tourniquet very specifically.
Yeah.
You have to like, which again it's a stopgap solution. It's not a tourniquet is not the same as like repairing or reconstructive surgery. It's you might lose the limb, but you will retain your life. I kind of feel like both Zodiac and Heidelin were also tourniquets in their own way in this
Yes.
sense too. And now Sephiroth's like, "Yo, this lady can't help you. Come to me."
That meme where the guy's next to a water cooler and he has like a Band-Aid and he slaps it on the front because it was leaking.
Hmm. I think
Yeah,
it's
that's
Steve.
Zodiark.
Yeah,
We just
Zodiark is
we just slap a patch on it.
pretty much. Here's where I had my details. Sephiroth is the plural of Sephira, which is attributes or emanations, essentially pieces of God. It's just interesting.
Say my name, Sephiroth. Again, feeds into the previous lyrics. Pray for me, your one true God, Sephiroth. The seventh hells become your seventh heaven, rose of redemption, but a thorn in your pride.
This line is so unusual to me. Like, it's hard for me to take Rose of Redemption as anything other than like a Zima rose, making Azim a thorn in the Convocation's side. I would love to hear another interpretation, though.
So, do we know? We know there are seven. There's elemental heavens, right?
Yes.
But there's only 6 elemental heavens.
I believe it's all. It might actually be tied as well to the astrologian stuff, because there's the 6 the 6 like fancy constellations that you get your card from, and then there's the 7th gate, which if you open that you'll like die or something like that. I forget the exact details now. So I have the impression that there's like an overall, like there's 6
The heavens,
elemental
yeah,
ones
the
and then
heavens represented
something
in the
over it.
sky by the 6 constellations. Astrologians refer to these constellations as gates, and that can be opened
Okay.
and will allow a person to attune themselves with the heavens, granting them incredible power to manipulate their ether. These constellations can be observed by rotating around a pole star, which is believed to be the final gate to the 7th heaven.
Yes. Okay, so that actually mentions the 7th heaven. Oh, okay, nice.
I wonder what implications that might have for the 24-man.
That's a really good. That suddenly got very relevant, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Imagine me thinking about this years later, or having this thought of back then, and now it's become relevant. Man, if only my theories about the lunar cry would become real.
Right. It's okay.
Nah.
Lunar cry is what you do when you're like upset that it wasn't specific and explicit. And
I'm going to
cry.
Freak out and say I called this 2 years ago if it happens.
And if it doesn't, you just go to the moon and cry, and there's your lunar cry.
Yep. I actually have it in the VODs. You can go back and look at it. I called it 2 years ago. Anyways,
we're ready.
The 7th hells become your 7th heaven. And so the 7th heaven is like the final gate of the 6 elementals. Now, what's the 7th hell?
So I do want to interject here really quick. 7th heaven is also a reference to, I believe, Tifa's bar in Final Fantasy VII.
Yep.
So more double speak from Koji here.
Interesting.
So, for example, depending on the sins they were committed in the lifetime, an individual will be sent to a layer of hell, must journey through the other layers of hell after suffering an eternity of punishment. When they reach the gates of the 7th hell, their heart is weighed. If it is heavy with sorrow and repentance for what they have done, the gates to the heavens will be opened. If they remain light after their journey, the gates to the 7th hell will be opened, and they will be made to suffer forevermore. The 7th heaven is, or 7th hell is basically an inverse of heaven, is what we know. Your heart is going to be weighed, and if they feel like if it is still full of sin, they go past the gate of hell and are made to suffer forevermore.
It's interesting
Well,
because Egyptian mythology also plays into the weighing of the heart very specifically.
it's a good thing that a primal later on offered to let us, rest our heavy heart upon her bosom.
That's true.
So basically, the seventh hells become your seventh heaven. Basically, you are used to suffering constantly.
I actually had kind of wondered about if the Ascians, broken angels, wingless casts from heaven's gates, had maybe, in a sense, become like a metaphorical seventh hell, but they're tempered, so they believe it's heaven. Basically, they're like, well, this is the right thing and the true thing and the good thing.
It's basically saying that you've lived for so long under the yoke of someone, or you've lived so long being, well, we'll just say starved to death, living in a harsh environment for so long that it's anything else just is foreign to you. You're used to suffering.
Yeah.
Rose of redemption, but a thorn in your pride. Any kind of help will hurt your pride.
Yeah, the rose part seems very odd to me, but who knows?
Well, a rose is very beautiful. So, rose of redemption. So, a rose of help, a rose of aid will just hurt your pride more because you're so low. You've been brought so low and have stayed there that you would feel that it's unwarranted, it's unfair, it's why do you do this? I don't have the means to repay you.
I do know in game there's an item called an Azima rose, which appears to be a carnation. I don't know if there's any other like gathering items, botany probably, if there's other roses or if that's the only one though. I don't know if anyone gathers can answer that for me.
So the next two lines are an inverse of that. Waste no more time fighting your demons. Let down your arms and let the evil inside. Sephiroth says, stop trying to fight your demons. Put down your weapons and just let the evil inside. Let my influence inside.
Tempering. I definitely read this as tempering. Whether Sephiroth tempering his followers or the ancients stopping fighting the creatures of the sound and letting Zodiark's influence inside.
So I also see this as tempering, but I also see it as a kind of releasing of social norms and their morals in order to use those against the Allegans, if that makes sense. So basically taking their demons and instead of fighting them, embracing them to fight against the Allegans.
That makes sense, honestly.
And then you let it inside, and you let it inside. You let it eat you till there's nothing left at all, so you can feel that you are truly alive. I still think this is tempering.
Same.
Because you're letting Sephiroth's influence inside. You let it eat you until there's nothing left at all. We all remember Owen's PowerPoint on.
It's definitely tempering. Absolutely. It's
and
just
we see what happens when it consumes you and your body gets transformed.
Yeah, it's just also they're speaking of what are the outward effects of tempering and what are the internal effects of tempering is how I see this. It's talking about both at the same time.
I like that. That's a good interpretation. I approve.
And so that you can feel that you're truly alive. He basically saying you need more and more of my influence of my being so that you can feel that you have purpose again, so that you can get that sweet release, that euphoria.
Yeah, absolutely. He turned all of them into meth heads. And basically said, you weren't really alive before I came along, but now I'm here. Don't worry, I got this. And you can all, feed me your energy and I'll make you happy in return. But you're going to die from it. So thanks.
And this is also the way of other primals too. This Sephiroth not only speaks for himself, but others as well. I mean, they have the same mentality, you summoned me in order to solve your problems. Now let me give you my influence so that you can feel truly alive.
They're basically just replacing one problem with another. They're just swapping a short-term problem for a long-term one.
Indeed.
Better to serve in a waking nightmare than rule in their paradise.
This one like really just screams Asians to me. I know I totally think about Asians a completely normal amount, but like as I'm turning away from the convocation, no longer ruling and instead just like, you know how the Warrior of Light does all these like fetch quests. We're basically serving everyone around us, and I'm just like,
This is
And this
Alligans.
line also made.
It's always Alligans.
Also Alligans.
Better to serve in a waking nightmare. Better to serve with me than rule in their paradise.
This is also a direct reference to Milton's Paradise Lost, where Satan says it's better to rule in hell than serve in heaven.
Yep.
Which also, drawing the parallels from that, you know, you're giving yourself over to the bad thing. Yeah, basically, this is posturing, I believe. Basically, equating the Fiend to the evil but a necessary one.
Unnecessary, yes. What is gold? Always glitters, but it still comes at an unpayable price.
Just can't think of anything but Amarat.
True.
The calamities are a pretty unpayable price. You must admit.
Well, what is wealth? What do things mean to you? They always mean things to you, like happiness, family.
It could also be a reference to the to Allig and Allegan stuff, but I don't. It would be a very metaphorical gold because unlike Amarat that has like goldish highlights on the buildings, that they had were like metal and odd colors, but it could be metaphorical, like
Right. But it still comes with an unpayable price.
It's like the soul, basically. You'd be giving
Pretty
away
much.
your soul. Yeah.
Give me your soul, and all will be well. And you'll find the happiness you seek. Treading out upon the stagnant waters, our savior waiting for their turn in the tide. Turn in the tide, obviously being the war with the Alligans.
does that make Sephiroth this savior?
The savior. Treading out upon the stagnant waters.
The
What do you think of
stagnant
this line?
waters is very interesting to me because Heidelin in Shadowbringers, Emmett Selk uses, I think he uses the actual term stagnation for light, something like that. Anyway, it implies that light is stagnant, which is just, you know, not active. But he's casting it in a negative light. But stagnant waters makes me think that it must be the life stream because a lot of times it's referred to as, you know, with water symbolism, the shores of the ethereal sea,
Ooh,
all that.
that's an interesting take. I like that.
Just makes me wonder the savior. Then in that case, it could be Sephiroth, it could be someone else.
You are the night at the end of the tunnel, the empty void where the serpent lies.
This line is like, what I'm sorry, what? Like, obviously it's a play off of light at the end of the tunnel, implying this is dark instead of light. But the empty void where the serpent lies, what serpent is this?
So
Explain, Sephiroth.
because they just made a Satan reference, basically. I would equate
that's
this
fair,
to,
too.
you know, we'll give you this knowledge, but it's gonna cost you.
And the night at the end of the tunnel, it's basically just the inverse of the light at the end of the tunnel. He's not light, he's night.
And it says you are. I really wonder who it's addressing. If it's addressing the player, the Warrior of Light, if it's addressing Heidelin or something like that.
I would guess just.
I think this whole part, these 4 lines here are from the perspective of the Mericidians. Our savior waiting for a turn in the tide. Their savior. Sephiroth, you are the night at the end of the tunnel, The empty void where the serpent lies.
The empty void.
The serpent is the part that I'm trying to wrap my head around.
I'm sitting here trying not to like assume that it's Zodiac, because in Final Fantasy 12, Zodiac was very specifically a serpent. Now, it doesn't mean that they're referring to him as that in 14, because it's a little divorced from that in some ways. It retains the dark, but doesn't really have so much the serpentine look to him. It's just unusual. And also, I do love the play on where the serpent lies. Now, is it just chilling there, or is it telling lies from there?
It's the next part. I just realized.
Mm-hmm.
So the angels graze in the meadows of excess. They must needs go that the devils drive. Adam and Eve. The serpent tempted Adam and Eve to eat the apple. Sephiroth is that serpent.
Interesting.
He tempts them. Ta-da! Biblical references.
Yes. I also see some potential for the angels grazing in the meadows of excess being sundered life, and the Asians being like, y'all gotta get out the way. Casting the Asians here as the devils.
The angels graze in the meadows of excess. This would be a reference to the Algans. They think that they are high and mighty, grazing in the meadows of excess, reveling and being lavished in all kinds of gifts of gold, jewelry, and just living the high life. They must needs go that the devils drive.
It's also interesting because there was a story in the Bible where there was a bunch of demons, like legion of demons inside a person, and Jesus was like, get out. And they're like, yo, where are we gonna go? And he's like, yeah, there's a flock of pigs, go into them. And then they drove them off the cliffs and into the water where they drowned. So that's just interesting.
Yeah, these two verses are from the Mericidians' point of view. The angels graze. The angels are living their high life. The Algans are living their life. They have conquered more than half the world at this point. They're living high and mighty. They have to go that the devils drive. So we believe in our devil to drive them away.
I kind of read it as they that the devils drive have to go, but it's the phrasing is a little odd.
Right. Retreat where lesser men lead, flee from what you do not see, concede your mind unto the fiend, turn away, debts are paid. Again, from the Mericidians' point of view.
Definitely.
Concede your mind into the fiend.
Pretty straightforward.
Turn away, debts are paid.
Debts are paid. I really would love to know what that means. If that's like turn away from Heidelin and come to me because you don't owe her anything.
It's everything basically. You turn away from what people are saying to you. Turn away from what Heidelin is trying to coax you into doing. Just believe in me, and all will be paid. All debts will be paid. All sorrows will be washed away.
But it's a lie.
Especially the next part.
Almost lie? What?
This next one is Sephiroth again. I'm the end of the beginning, the drug that gives the wretched meaning, the answer soul, and the answer every soul is seeking. Say my name, Sephiroth.
I also find the phrasing of the end and the beginning interesting because in biblical terms, the Christian God is referred to himself as I am the beginning and the end. It's just turned it around. An interesting reversal anyway.
The drug that gives the wretched meaning.
The drug that gives the wretched meaning. Religion, the opiate of the masses.
Yep. The answer every soul is seeking. Say my name, Sephiroth. All in all, so it's basically a go back and forth between Sephiroth trying to convince the Mericidians to follow him, to worship him, and then the Mericidians going from should we follow him to trying to convince each other to follow Sephiroth until the very end, where it's like, all right, I'm proclaiming you. I'm telling you, you follow me. I'm that drug that gives you that release. Just say my name.
Yeah. It's interesting. When I think about Sephiroth and they speak to him as like the first tree or whatever. Um, so if you look at the elemental diagram, there's a tree in the center of it, and it is like it talked about it a little in the Astrologian Quest, and I forget exactly. I'll have to try and find it exactly what they called it, but it was something like the Tree of Life, or maybe it was the World Tree. I think it was Tree of Life is what it was
I
referred
still
to as.
think that it's a biblical reference because the serpent, Adam and Eve ate the apples under a tree, and the serpent was there.
The Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil, yeah.
Yep. So end and beginning, good and evil, evil and good. Just reverse it. It's basically end in the beginning. So in the beginning there was the tree, and in the end there could be a tree. I don't know. It's still that there is still that origin kind of reference.
Yeah, I kind of think that the same tree that's depicted in that elemental diagram is probably the legends or the concept upon which Sephiroth was created. Like, not necessarily that he is that specific thing since he is a primal, but they probably have a common source, I would guess. And I think now I'm trying to remember what it says about the bull card. There was something interesting about that. Now I don't remember. I'll see if I can find it.
You said that Sephiroth has the characteristics of in the Jewish Kabbalah. Did you? What was? Go back to your what you were thinking about. What you were saying
Oh,
about the.
the Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Well, that one that one is interesting too, for another reason. Basically, you're going to notice if you look at the 10 Sephirot, the 10 aspects or pieces of God, you're going to see a lot of things very familiar to the fight. Things like Bina, Chokhmah, Dat, Yisod, I think was in there too. I don't remember. Tiferet is
Yes.
definitely in there. Like at least half of these Sephirot, because the singular Sephira and the plural Sephirot. But yeah, at least half of them are woven into the fight as various mechanics, the tank buster, big attack hits, that sort of thing. So it's but it's just they're obviously playing to this concept as well as everything else. I know back when I first heard about Sephiroth as, oh, that's going to be a primal, I was like, oh yeah, like Sephiroth from 12 from 7, and it turned out to be nothing like it. And I think some people were, I don't know, I'm trying to remember, I feel like some people were a little salty about it. Maybe I'm misremembering. um I don't really remember, but what we got was also very interesting in its own way. There's actually if the way these things are laid out looks sort of vaguely like a tree, not very stylized tree, but they're all very connected to each other in different ways. It's interesting.
I'm looking back and I'm thinking, again, just because I use the Adam and Eve reference so much, the origin. The night at the end of the tunnel where the serpent lies.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that could be Heidelin? She's the one that spouts the lies, so she is the serpent.
And she's in a way imprisoning Zodiac as well. But yeah, I see. No, I could see that on its own too. And
Because
whether or not she is like strictly honest, a little prevarication or whatever, Sephiroth is characterizing her as this because it's advantageous to him. He's like, she's a liar. Don't listen to her.
because he knows that she is the quote unquote light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of people. So he then calls her the night at the end of the tunnel, the darkness at the end of the tunnel, the serpent, the serpent in the empty void. That's what I got out of it just now.
I kind of see in the void as Zodiac, because Zodiac's imprisoned in the moon, which is out in space, which is one of like 18 different things that void can mean in this game. I don't think it's referring to the 13th, though it is possible. It's just hard to say. But yeah, that's definitely that's one interpretation that makes sense to me.
I I like that you touched upon the 13th just because it was so involved in this war. So I don't
Hmm.
think that mentioning the void here is is just kind of like, oh, the void, without touching on the 13th. But I do think you're right that they're not specifically referencing it, but I do think it's very interesting that they would put that in here when they were the void was
That's
something they were
true.
actively fighting against.
I forgot. That's right. The Alligans were summoning void sent through and stuffing them in the corpses of the fallen on the battlefields and using them to fight these Mericidians,
Right.
right?
Yes,
I forgot
exactly.
about that. That's a very good point. Interesting.
But yeah, that pretty much covered the whole song. I thought we had some really good takes on this.
I agree.
Agreed.
It's a very interesting song, and there's a lot of meaning in here. As with most of the songs in this game, it's not just what it's saying, but it's the context around it as well.
So a bit of
Yeah.
fun fact, fun piece of trivia. The orchestrion version of the song is slightly different because the chorus's places are swapped with "Concede your mind unto the fiend" with "Concede your place in history."
Really? I didn't know that. That sounds like one god supplanting another.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and I did find a bit on the bull. Let me read this really quickly. The bull was planted by Nafika the matron and raised by Althik the keeper. Those are the two deities associated with Earth. It's thanks to them that the bull reached such an impressive side. It's basically Eorzea's world tree, but it's said to have given life to all life in Eorzea, which is just interesting. But yeah, there's a lot to those lyrics. They're very like dense with references and meaning, and it makes it a fun song on top of how fun the music just already is because it's catchy as heck.
Even if it is really generic.
Yes, but in a good way.
Industrial rock really is. All you
Hey,
need is a bass drum and a snare.
it's still good.
Since there's only one, to my recollection, industrial rock piece on the soundtrack, it stands out in its own way.
Agreed.
Also, I
But
haven't listened to industrial rock in like decades, not
but
counting Fiend.
I'm really happy that Soken has not only the freedom but the willingness to experiment with such
Absolutely.
wildly different styles in this game.
It makes it so interesting, and it gives it a really unique sort of style and flavor to it.
I mean, he's the guy who plays automatones at concerts and dresses up in chicken outfits
It's fantastic.
and goes shirtless in winter.
Is that not normal?
I don't want to answer that question.
Oh man. Well, if other people have thoughts on these lyrics, because like I said, they're really dense and you can pull a lot of meaning from it out, we would definitely love to hear it. We've actually got a lyrical analysis or a music analysis channel in the Discord. If you ever want to check it out, talk about other songs, that's the place. Be
Absolutely.
into it.
So yeah, we could probably wrap a little bit early tonight. I don't want to
Yes.
drag things out, but this was a lot of fun diving into these lyrics. I learned some stuff. This was really good conversation. Next time we have two more songs to get through, I believe, and each one takes about a full episode. So we'll probably be diving into the next one as we get closer to 6.4.
We've also got
Alrighty.
more planned for you too, and we do plan on hosting more events to play with you guys, so we hope you
Mm-hmm.
can make it.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well,
Thanks so
thank you
much for coming out,
guys.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to everyone in chat. And yeah, we will see you same time next week.
Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.